All right, hello internet. Welcome back to another deck tech I have for you today, which is Dooku, Momin, and Watch Your Career with Great Interest. The battlefield I'm using for this combo is Salt Flats to blank a die or turn one of my leader die to any side. Now this plot is essentially, after you turn or remove a die, place a resource on this plot, and you have to defeat a Sith or apprentice to and remove 6 resources from it to flip this plot. So if your character is elite, it becomes elite. So you're trying to flip die, turn die, remove die as soon as you can to get Vader out. And you may not play Vader turn one. It may not be a smart idea to overwrite one to the other, but it can be advantageous to have that ready to go. If you notice you have a character at 1 health, you're going to flip that plot. So we talked about the battlefield and how that plays into the plot. Now let's talk about the characters and what we're going to do. Dooku, his power action is play a blue card, paying its cost, and then force an opponent to discard a card from their hand. They can choose on that, and that's okay. So each turn I can get them down from 5 to 4 cards pretty easily. And Dooku as well has some discard sides on his die, so feel free to discard from hand. That's things they can't play. That's things they can't discard to reroll with. So Momin has the same thing. After he's defeated, though, he can flip. But his power action is right now, before he flips, is play a blue ability from your hand, reducing its cost by 1 if an opponent has 1 or more die showing a blank. So Salt Flats can come into play with that. Some other things that we have in our deck can come into play with that, and that ability is very helpful. So when Momin dies, he becomes the mask. The upgrade cannot be replaced. The power action is dealing damage to attached character to play a blue ability from your discard pile, reducing its cost by 1 if an opponent has a 1 or more die showing a blank. So you can power action to deal a damage and play that blue ability from your discard pile. You just get to reduce its cost by 1 if your opponent has a blank. What's really key, there's a lot of confusion on this, the upgrade cannot be replaced. You cannot overwrite it. You can, however, play 4 upgrades on a character and then discard the mask. That is doable. So there are ways to get rid of the mask if it's no longer serving its purpose. And you can also, because of the order of how things work, you can defeat Momin, flip the plot, and put the mask on Vader. So that is also very doable. So let's talk about what we have in store for each of these characters. So Blue Villain is going to have the classic Grand package. I'm looking for those. Turn 1, the Forbidden Lore, It Binds, and the Merchant Freighters. So turn 1, I'm always trying to get at least one of those. Hopefully the Forbidden Lores come out early, or the It Binds, and I'll go from there. Next, I am going to have to do this a couple of different ways, and really I usually have a plan for my deck, but if I don't get the battlefield, if I don't feel like I'm going to turn very fast, I might play some stuff to turn or remove die, mitigation rather than play abilities. So I'm actually going to go through the mitigation package first, which is not typical for me, and then we'll go back into the abilities. So first I have Forsaken, 0 cost. If there's 1 die in a pool, remove a die showing a value of 2 or less. Then I have your powers are weak. To reroll 3 die, choose a symbol. Whatever lands on that die is symbol is removed. Otherwise, it's blanked. Whether it's blanked or removed is very good for getting your plot online. The only thing is if it re-rolls into a blank, then it's not very helpful. From there, we have Quad Slam. Choose up to 4 characters and remove 1 character die belonging to each of them. So if you're playing against someone with 3 wide, remove a character die from everybody if you can. If you're rolling blanks and you don't have a card to re-roll or they're not that valuable to you, Quad Slam your own die. Just those are to get the plot online. It's for nothing else on that. And we have Isolation to remove a character die. So going along with that, I do have the discard on Dooku's power action. I have a Dark Contrition. Spot 2 blue characters to resolve one of your die showing melee damage with a value of 2 or less as if it were showing a discard. That's 0 cost. I don't want to play that in there. You're going to get a surprise on someone that doesn't have a lot of cards. They might discard to reroll soon. I'm also going to play Dooku Saber in this deck, just to give me a little edge. That 1 damage has come into play and won me the game a couple times. And also discarding a card with Dooku's Saber is great. But his ability is after you play this upgrade, if it's on a Sith, deal 1 damage to a character that has no shields, or if it's on Count Dooku, force an opponent to discard a card from their hand. And it is, I think, one of the only uniques in here I have. So other things that we're going to have, the rest of this deck is going to be ability focused. That's just going to be for Momin and Vader and helping them get out. We are going to play Neiman and have that in this deck. We are going to have 2 of those along with 2 Sith teachings to remove a blank. And that's going to help get the plot online as well. We have Force Crush, which is really key too. Choose an opponent's character or upgrade die, deal unblockable damage to a character equal to the value showing on that die, then turn that die to a blank. That helps us get our plot online. And it helps us mitigate some damage. Makashi Mastery. It's after you play it, remove a die showing melee damage. And then discard. The special is discard a card from your hand to resolve any die showing damage. We do have Force Storm. Force Storm is a pretty gross die. And its special is place a resource on it and deal damage equal to the amount of resources on it and re-roll the die. You can only place 1 resource on it per turn, or per round, and so it can't rack up damage that way, but it can be pretty nasty as well. It has a 2 discard side. With this deck, I would feel free to resolve it, especially if you get 2 discards and then, maybe they have something else. Maybe use Force Crush and get rid of something else they have. And there's tons of ways to use Force Storm in this deck. And lastly, we have a Death Field. Death Field comes into play. This deck does well on money. So I wouldn't feel shy about including Death Field or playing Death Field. With Momin's Mask, when you get him on Vader, you can deal damage to Vader to overwrite Death Field with Death Field and roll it back out. So, and you can kind of keep that chain going. If you do the Sheehan Mastery card in here, then you can also deal a damage and overwrite Sheehan with Sheehan and roll that back out. So there's some ways to be tricky about it. That's another form you might like more than what I have done. And that is the main thing I'm going to do with this deck, is just try to discard cards and really control what you have out on the field and what you're doing with Makashi and Neiman. And shoot, all the specials. All the specials are pretty nasty. So things this deck isn't as great against. Supports. It is kind of rough on supports. If you have someone with a support deck that turns off Force Crush, unless the character is rolling out something well. And that's kind of why you have the discards in here, to get rid of the supports. And hopefully you can luck out with that. But yeah, that's the main thing with that. And let me know what you guys think of this deck, or try it out. Feel free. And I will see you later. Thank you guys for watching. Stay on the sensors.